All right, all right, all right. We're here with session 95, and we have the man, the myth, the legend, that is Dean Popplestone. He's our frequent speaker that we have on here. He has a world of wisdom, a large amount of humor, and tonight he's going to share with us all about, or today, whenever you're watching this, all about values. And I can't wait because this is one of my favorite topics to talk about. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I give you Dean Popplestone. Here we go.
Excellent. Thank you, Maddie. I'm on. I'm just checking out. I'm on unmute. And funny story for everybody. So I was waiting on the IQ session for it to start, and then it ended, and I realised that I was actually sitting on a boot camp Zoom instead. I did think Maddie was a bit of a rude mongrel, but that's all right. All forgiven, Maddie. So now I'm actually on the right one, and away we go. Tonight, I want to talk about our values. Why our values? Because values are something we live by, regardless whether we know them or not. So it is actually something that we live our life by, whether we know our values or not. It's not even relevant that we know them, we still live by them. Now, the good thing about values is once we know them, we can change them, we can alter them, we can mold them how we want, and start to get in the life the life that we actually desire and really dream of. That is a good thing. It's the old saying is, once you know it, you can change it. So it's, and a great quote also from Roy Disney. Now, he's a big bro of Walt. Everybody knows Walt Disney. So, and also the co-founder of Disney Company. And he puts it like this. He said, it's not hard to make a decision when you know your values. So it's not hard to actually make a decision when you know your values. So it's important for all of us to actually get to know what we value and what we actually live our life by, what our compass is on what our life is. And also a great one by one of my favorites, my mum, is just be yourself. That's what our set of values are. It's just be yourself. All right. I'm sure plenty of other mums have stolen this off my mum, but I'm pretty sure she was the first one to say it, as far as I know, because I've known it all my life. The definition of values are, according to the dictionary, whatever dictionary you're looking at, I'm looking at Dictionary Google, principles or standards of behavior, one's judgment of life is important in, I'll go again. The principles and standards of behavior, one's judgment of what is important in life. So a bit of a mouthful. When it's said in the right way, it makes sense. In layman's terms, it's what's important to you. That's what our values are. It's what's important to you. That's why it's important for us to actually know what they are. So, and I want to talk on it could be a controversial subject, but we'll risk it anyway. It's on resourceful and unresourceful values. So you're probably thinking, what? How can values be unresourceful when it's important? Well, not everything that we value, not everything that's important to us actually helps us out. Not everything actually drives us forward. Some things actually hold us back, but we still value them. We still hold on to them. And how could this be? Great question. I'll answer that a little bit later as we go through. Keep you in suspense. Now, part of our value system, part of our values, they make up our system for how we actually see the world, the map that we have, or the world that we see. So how we actually view life. It's our internal representation filter. So that's made up of a few things. I know I've spoken about this before. So we actually put meaning on events, and that's our interpretation of how we see the world. And values makes up part of that filter, which our filter is made up of meta programs, values, beliefs, decisions, and memories are some of the part of that filter. So it's an important part of the way that we actually see the world and the way that we actually live our life. How do we get our values? I just want to lay the groundwork first before we actually start getting into it. How do we actually get our values? Now, just recently, I was watching a a training video, and they went through this step by step, and they were saying 0 to 7, we unconsciously get our values from mum and dad, our folks, because we're in our household, they're our world, and we're just soaking up what they're doing. Unconsciously, we're actually taking on the values of the people from us. And from 7 to 14, we are consciously aware of what values we are taking on from mum and dad. So now we're starting to watch them a little bit more, and we're consciously aware of what mum and dad are doing. From 14 to 17, I know there's probably a lot of 14 and 17-year-olds that'll hate to hear this, but guess what? You start to model your folks. You start to act out how your folks are acting, how your folks actually interact between each other, how dad treats mum, how mum treats dad. You start to actually model that to build up your relationships. How your folks deal with money, you start to model that to your relationship with money. How your folks deal with other people, whether they like them or whether they don't, you start to actually model that. And I know there's probably plenty of 14, 17-year-olds go, oh, no, I don't even like my dad. Well, tough luck, you do, because science says you do. So that's the way that we take it on. Now, 17 to 21 is we're getting out into the world. This is called the social stage, where we're mixing it up, we're partying, we're getting into the good crowds, we're getting into the wrong crowds. And now our values start to get input from outside our family dynamic. So they're getting input from our friends, from the people that we hang around, from associates that we know, maybe from a footy club or a basketball club, and even from our idols. So we start to take on the values of people that we think are important, like some movie stars that we might like, from some sports stars, TV personalities. Now they're starting to become our own values. So it's integrated from what we've learned from home, from our folks, and now from what we're choosing to take on from the external world as well. Now, interestingly, from 21 to 31, they call this the business value stage, is where we actually get our business values, our work ethics, how we perceive what business is, how we perceive how we should earn income, and how we go about it. Is our 20 to 31. They say that's the stage where our business values are set, whether it's all about money, whether it's all about people, whether it's all about a bit of both. So that's the basics of the mechanics of how we actually take on our values. Now, are these set in concrete? No. The good thing about humans is we are pliable, we are moldable, we are changeable. Now, I know I've used this one before, but the difference between us and the rest of the animal kingdom is we do have the ability to choose. We have the ability to choose our path. We have the ability to choose which way we want to live life. Unlike the goose that flies south every winter because every other goose flies that way. So we get to choose. Now, this is a great thing about it, is even though these values have been set early, we can actually make a conscious decision on how we go about it, how we actually choose to change, and which values we change, and how we actually change them. Do we just tweak them? Do we scrap them? Do we just mold them into something that looks slightly different? That's our choice. And this is a great thing about it. And that's what I really want to talk to you tonight about our resourceful and unresourceful values. How do we find them? What do we do with them? What's the point of them? So let's dive into that. So resourceful and unresourceful. A lot of us would have already done a value list. So I know that's something that when I speak to quite a few clients, they go, yes, I've done this before. I've been through this exercise before, and I've got my value list, and it looks fantastic. And I'm looking at my list, and I love hanging out with me because I'm an awesome person. Look at my list. It's really, really good. And it is. It's great. But are we actually living that list? So we've got this great list. Are we actually living it? And what happens is quite often there's some values on there that we're not living at all. Some values that we're only partially living as well. So, and what that causes is an internal conflict where we start to doubt ourselves, where we start to talk ourselves down, where we start to lose our self-belief because we want these values, but something's not happening that we don't seem to be living in. And we can't work out why that is. And it's called an internal conflict where there's a bit of a battle going, oh, I really want this, but I'm not going there. I don't know why that is. So let's talk about why that is. And on that, I want to share a little personal journey that I've just had just recently in this area is, and where I actually discovered that I've got my, my values list, and it's happy to share it with you. It's respect, honesty, service, fun, health, and wealth. I look at that and I go, man, that's an awesome list. Love it. Great list. What a great thing to live by. Not living by all of it. How do I know this? Because once I started looking into the standards I was living, and we'll talk about standards in a minute, they were not matching what my values were. And once I looked in it closer and closer of what I was doing and what I was falling back on, one of the unresourceful values that I found that should be on my list is comfortable. I was choosing comfortable. So I could go for a run. You know, I started doing runs at 4 o'clock in the morning. I've managed to do one, but it's pretty uncomfortable, pretty sucks to get up at that time of morning. No, I might not. I've found an excuse why not to do it. The things that I eat, I could do this, or I could just have a bag of chips instead. So I was choosing comfortable. Now, why is this a problem? Because some people, that could be one of their good values. And they go, yeah, comfort is good. It feels good. I feel safe. I'm in my little blankie. I've got a warm Milo. This is a great value to have. You know, I see comfortable as treating myself. This is the great thing about values is one thing can mean something to somebody and totally different to somebody else. So comfortable to me is a full-on unresourceful value. Why is this? Because to me, comfortable stands for no growth. Comfortable stands for compromise in my decisions. Comfortable is actually moving me away from my goals. So I'm going, what can I put in there that'll actually get me moving? So instead of comfortable, I'll put uncomfortable in there as one of my resourceful values. Now, the reason for this is when I look at uncomfortable, when I'm uncomfortable, I'm growing. When I am comfortable, I'm stretching myself and I'm actually moving closer to my goals. So where my running goals are, I need to be uncomfortable to actually reach those running goals. Where my health and fitness goals are, I need to be uncomfortable to actually reach those goals as well. When it comes to some of the challenges I face at work, if I went comfortable, I'd never be able to do some of the stuff I do at work, such as some of the big quotes that we have to do for work. If I sat in my little comfy chair, I'd be knackered because I need to get uncomfortable to learn these things. I need to get uncomfortable with people I don't like to actually build some of my social skills up. I need to get comfortable in situations that are awkward to build my social skills up. So for me, uncomfortable is actually a resourceful value. Comfortable was holding me back, not only holding me back, but actually started to move me backwards into old habits as well. So for me, this is a switch. Now, where I want to go from here is I want to talk about our values list. So is comfortable still in my list? Yes, it is. There you go. How is that possible? You just told me it was unresourceful. Yeah, it is. Now, the reason it is because, you know what? Oh, it's magic, sleight of hand. There's two lists. Who would have known? So we actually have an actual values list that we live by. Like I said right at the beginning, we live by our values, whether we know them or not. Now, what I discovered was I'm living to comfortable. So that's in my values list. I don't want it there, but I like it there. Now, there's two different things. Quite often you say, oh, but I don't want it. Well, that's not the point. It's obviously there because you like it. We do what we like, whether we like it or not, but we actually do what we like. So when people say, oh, I don't want to eat chips, but you eat chips because you like chips. And that's the principle of it. We do what we like. Whether it benefits us or not in the long run is not even relevant. We do what we like. And what they call that in the coaching world is they call it a secondary gain. So if I ask somebody, why would you do this particular habit? What do you get out of it? And they will tell me nothing. I get nothing out of it. But we do it because we actually do get something out of it. It might just make us feel good. It might be that instant gratification. Let's go back to the packet of chips. Long term, if I eat a packet of chips every single day, it's not going to benefit me one little bit. But every time I crack that packet of chips and have those chips, it feels good because it tastes really, really good. So there's my secondary gain, is it actually tastes good. So I keep going back to it. So we do what we like. Now, what we want to do is a different story. What we want to do actually takes effort, and it takes a conscious decision to change our direction. Let's talk about our other list. So I've got our actual list. So my actual list now, what as it stands, is respect, comfortable, probably fun, service, honesty, health, and wealth. Why has it ended up like that? Simply because of this. Because I look at it now, and I still have respect at the top because I still have a strong desire to change. And for me, that's showing me respect that I'm still not happy with where I am at the moment. In certain areas, I still want to change. So I want to keep respect at the top. Comfortable is a very, very safe second, because I'm looking at the decisions I'm making on a daily basis, and they are definitely in the comfort zone. So that tells me that's high on my list. Now, why has honesty moved down? Because I had that at second place. I have moved honesty down because I'm not being honest with myself. I'm not being straight up with myself. Fun has moved up because that is, at the moment, I've attached that with comfortable. Because it's fun, it's easy, that's cool. So it's shifted my actual list around. Don't be too put off by this at all, okay? Let's talk about the second list. The second list, on technical terms, they call it a lead value. So our lead value list, or in layman's terms, we call it the wish list, where we want to be. Keep your wish list alive, because that is your beacon. That is where you want to go. That is where we start removing the unresourceful values. That is where we replace those unresourceful. So my comfortable gets replaced with uncomfortable. Now, when I'm conscious of this and I'm sitting there going, oh, I don't really want to get my ass out in the dark and the cold and go for a run. If I'm conscious of going, man, what am I choosing? Am I choosing comfortable, which is no growth, or uncomfortable, which is more growth? Now I consciously have to make a decision. Am I going to feed my actual list, or am I going to start feeding my lead list, my wish list, where I want to be? Now it's all about, what do I choose? This is where we have the ability to choose. And that's where we move into our standards. So our values are all very good. Our standards are what dictate our values. So our standards are self-propelled. Our standards come from external resources. They come from within. We set the standards. So how did I find the comfortable value? Because I simply looked at the standards that I was living, the standards that I was showing, the standards that I was choosing. Now, standards in the dictionary is something used to measure. So that's our measuring stick. That's the level of quality that we choose. Our standard is only reliant on us. Our standards, as I said earlier, are an internal mechanism. They are self-propelled. So when we set our standards, so say for health, all right, and I'll choose health, FBFM. Health is probably one of the number ones, probably on nearly everybody's list. Out there say, yep, health is on my list. Healthy, fit and strong. Yeah, love it. Thank you, Maddie. When we choose health and we say, yep, that's on my list, that's high on my list, that's what I'm all about, and we turn up to boot camp and we give them 40%. What standards are you living to? Are you living to the standard of health, or are you living to the standard of something else? I'm choosing health for sure. It's wet, I'm not going for a walk. So what standards are we living to? We choose a standard of health. We go, yep, for sure, I'm going to change what I am putting into my mouth tomorrow. Maybe I might do it next day. Oh, but I really like this. I deserve it. When we start to compromise, we need to start looking at what our actual standards are. Now, I'm not saying this so you can get all, sad sack on yourself, start to beat yourself up. Not at all. That's not at all why I'm saying it. What I'm saying is so we can have an awareness of what we're actually choosing, awareness of the standards of the measuring stick that we're actually giving ourselves. For me, I value health, but I wasn't living it. So for me, my health is in my top 5, but I still wasn't living it. So my standards were not matching. So our standards actually dictate what our actual values list are. Now, expectations, that's a different thing altogether. Expectations are an external propelled mechanism. And they're simply that. They are what is expected, not what is true, it's what is expected from an event or a situation. So it's not an actual concrete end result. An expectation is simply that. It is a prediction of what we are expecting to happen. I'm trying to find a different word, but I can't think of a different word other than expecting and expected. I'm sure there is another word. Somebody probably Google it and go, yep, there's heaps of other words. You could have chosen any one of those, but that's fine. Expectations are an external propelled mechanism and something that is actually out of our control. So it's good to have expectations because it gives us something to aim for. When we go to a party, we have an expectation that it's going to be fun, and there's no problem with that. But how much basis do we put on that when it's not fun? How much basis when our expectations is that we should have finished in the top 4 and we don't finish in the top 4? How much basis do we put on our happiness, on our self-worth, on our ability to actually achieve what we want to achieve when our expectations are not met? So expectations gives us something to look forward to, something to drive towards, but they are not the be all and end all. Standards are something that we set. Standards are something that are self-propelled. Standards are something from come within. Now, when our standards are good and strong, expectations lose their power. problem that a lot of us have is we start to abandon our values and we live by our expectations. And we wonder why that we get disappointed. We get disappointed that we're not losing the kilos that we wanted to lose. We get disappointed that we haven't got ripped abs. We get disappointed because we can't run as fast as we want to. We get disappointed because the people aren't saying what they should be saying. We start living by our expectations and assume that this is the way that life is. Now, the reason that we get disappointed is because what we've failed to see is our expectations. Sorry, I'll put it a different way. We fail to see that people have different values than us. Not right or wrong values, just different values than us. So when we fail to see this, that's when expectations start to take over. That's when we get disappointed because we think, oh, they should have been doing this. But they have no idea that they should be doing this because they don't know what your set of values are. So when we have a conflict of values and we are putting our values on somebody else, and that's, you know, otherwise known as our expectations on somebody else in the way that they should be living, then we get disappointed. Good one, let's bring it closer to home. We turn up to boot camp. And we think boot camp should be outside because it's sunny. And it's inside for whatever reason, who knows? And we go away going, that boot camp sucked because it should have been outside. They should have known it should have been outside. That's the way it should have been. Now, we have not seen the bigger picture there. We have not understood what values are in place there and what circumstances actually caused it to be inside. And we start dictating our values on other people and have our expectations that they should just know. You know what? People should just know that my value is respect and they should show me respect. This is not the way that values work. This is an unresourceful way of viewing our values. Our values should be for us and us alone. The good thing about this world is it's full of so many different people and so many people that can add different value to us, to our values and to our value to us. All right. The reason relationships work so well is because we don't have the same values. Because if we all had the same values, say if Tan had the same values as me, one of us would be void in this relationship because we only need one because we're exactly the same. Now, we definitely don't have the same values, which is great because you know what? We fill the gaps and we complement each other. That's the good thing about it is we don't have to be scared or offended by other people's values. They're just different. That's what it is. So when we start basing our life on our expectations, that's where we start to get wayward because now we are living in a world that can't be controlled. Now we are living in a world that you have no control over. I have no control over. Nobody does. They're purely that. They're an expected outcome. They're not a sure thing outcome. They're only an expected outcome. An expected outcome is just a prediction. So if I do this and this and this should be what happens. If I say this, they should say that. But sometimes they don't. And then we put ridiculous expectations out there saying, I'm leaving work at 5. All right, I should be there in 5 minutes. Everybody knows traffic at 5, you're cactus. So find something to listen to and make sure you got some water. So when we live by our expectations, that's only going to bring us disappointment. So I'll start to wrap it up a little bit now. One of the main objective for tonight is get to know your values, okay? Have your wish list, have your lead list, okay? Have that wish list there. All important. These are the values that I want. Now, Get to know the values that you are actually living now. If you need help with this, sing out. There's plenty of people in FBFM that can help you out with this. I know Matt's done plenty of work on it. Shez has as well. Myself, there's a good crew here that can help you. Come in with an open mind. Don't be offended, because we might say something that might hurt your feelings, but take note, see where it can help. Know both lists. Know your actual lists of what you are living now. Know your list where you want to be. It's this gap here that you want to fill. All right, it's this gap here that you want to fill, because when you start to fill it, then we can start actually working off this wish list here. That's where the satisfaction comes. That's where the growth is. That's where life is ace. That's the list that you want to head towards. But you know what? The journey can be good too. Those hard ass times when you have to get your ass up when you don't want to. Those hard ass times when you have to put 100% in the boot camp when you feel like crap. And all those moments, they're the moments that you conquer. They're the moments that you head towards the second list. So good. Get to know your lists. Your wish list, your actual list, very, very important. Okay, get to know what's actually resourceful and what's unresourceful, and understand why it is unresourceful for you. As I said, comfortable for a lot of people is great. Comfortable for me sucks eggs big time, because I know I'm not getting where I want to be when I'm all rugged up and comfy. No good. So I want to be uncomfortable. It's not what I'm feeling at the time, but I definitely want to be, because I know that's going to get me to my list. Set your standards, all right? Consciously set your standards. If it's health, set your standards around there. If I'm going to boot camp, it's 100%. I'm going out almost half dead. All right, I'm emptying the tank. I'm done. That's my standard for boot camp. Set your standards and know what your standards are in all areas of your life. Set them. If it's in wealth, and you're looking at your finances and you go, we can just stuff it to spend it. But if you know that's contradiction to your standard, stay by it. If you know your standards and you can explain it, that's perfect. So when somebody says, why won't you just do that? You go, well, that's not going to help me get to where I am. So if I spend now, it's going to not benefit me to where I want to be. Because my standard is, I'm putting it aside for this. My standard is, I've got money aside for that, and I've already spent that, so there's none left. That's my standard. All right. Set your standards, know your standards. Have expectations, but don't stake your life on it. Have expectations. Don't set your self-worth on your expectations. All right. Nothing wrong with expectations, because that drives us towards something. You know, if we go out in the race and you have expectations of finishing in the top 3, that is fine. But don't beat yourself up when you come fourth. Learn from it, grow from it. Fine. What can I do to get third? Set your expectations. That's going to be your goals. Okay. Our expectations are also our benchmarks. So when we set our expectations, it's a good benchmark. Cool. That's a benchmark that I wanted to get. I haven't quite made it. What do I need to get it? Set your expectations. Have your expectations. Don't set them, have them, but don't die on the sword for them. All right. Don't ditch your wish list. After tonight, don't look at your wish list and go, what's the point? Don't ditch it. Keep it there. It's all important, because you need your actual list and wish list to start talking to each other to see what they need to do to get you there. Keep your wish list alive. All right. Mum's great quote, be yourself. All right. And I'm gonna add to that, be the best version of yourself. Because when we know it, we can change it. When we know our values, we can change them. When we know what we want to do, we can set our standards to live the life that we want to live. Now, a couple of really, really good quotes that I want to end on. One, I've got heaps of favourites. Sir Edmund Hillary, Kiwi brother, all right, first man to climb Mount Everest. So he knows all about mountains, and he put it really beautifully like this. He said, it's not the mountain that we have to conquer, it's ourselves. It's not the mountain that we have to conquer, it's ourselves. So too often we look at the external and say, I can never do it. And the conquering really needs to be done within. And Peter Sage, another great speaker, another great motivational self-help guy. People will never rise above the opinion of themselves. So we have a low opinion, that's as high as we're going to go. Start investing in you. So your opinion of yourself soars. So your opinion of yourself grows continually. People will never rise above the opinion of themselves. So they reckon they're no good. That's the way that they're going to live. But start investing in you. So your opinion of yourself is awesome. Your opinion of yourself is you're a kick-ass person that goes out and starts taking care of what you need to take care of. 2 quotes. I love them. All right. Get to know your wish list. Get to know your actual list. Resourceful and unresourceful values. They're all there. Learn your unresourceful from the standards that we keep, and then we can start to change them. Love your work, people. Thank you for having me again.
Thank you, Dino. Jeepers creepers, always dropping wisdom on us. I'm very, very grateful. I love the value sessions. They're always a deep passion of my one to try and remain humble and focused on your wish list values. The secondary list I hadn't actually ever acknowledged. I reckon I just ignore it. I'm always focused on going to the good glory ones and checking in over here, but forgetting that these are actually things. So that was really interesting. So thank you for sharing that good lesson that I have to go away and analyze now. So I've got some homework ahead of me. Thank you, Dino. But we're very grateful for your time, Dino, giving it up and sacrificing time away from your family. We do appreciate it. And if you do want to know more about doing anything to do with your values, guys, reach out. And Dean would be a great person to reach out and chat to and connect with. We can all help you, but you can see in the passion and the way he delivered that message before, that is someone you want to be around to learn about them, because that's someone who really believes in them, is aligned with them, has accepted them, isn't pretending that they're not real. That's what you want to help you achieve your values list, because that's someone who's aligned with his, and he has a way through it to get closer to the wish list. And I think that's a fantastic thing. So Dean, is there a way that people can reach out to you? Is there an email to contact you on or something like that?
They can reach me on email, which is dpopples @yahoo.com. dpopples. Yeah, very, very happy, very friendly at yahoo.com.au, or just jump on Average Man, my Facebook page, and they can message me through that as well.
Oh, I love it.
Man, I am more than happy to talk about values. I love people, and I love to see them actually just soar. So I'd love to just invest and see people actually discover who they really are.
Awesome.
And what they actually have to be able to do it. And we have so much, Matty, that's inside us, just not aware of.
Exactly. Perfect. Well, thank you very much, good sir. Have a wonderful night. And if you want to reach out, those people at home that are watching this, if you do want to reach out, you've just heard at deanpopples@yahoo.com.au, or go over to the Average Man Facebook page, throw him a message, and he'll get back to you. He's the man for the job, I promise you. Have a great time, guys, and we'll chat to you guys next week. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.